It starts with a feeling, a faint flush, a hidden message, a small lie that won't let go. This story is about discovering the cracks in a relationship, facing uncomfortable truths, and finding freedom in choosing yourself over suspicion and control. Hey friend, please subscribe. 1 second for you. Big deal for me. The moment I opened the door, they stopped talking. Not gradually. Not like someone telling a story that naturally ends when someone walks in. It was immediate. Abrupt. A room full of people, half drunk, music playing, conversation buzzing, dropped into a thick, awkward quiet the second I stepped inside. The kind of quiet that doesn't just happen. It wasn't my imagination. I know what I heard, or didn't hear. No one looked directly at me, except for one guy I'd never met before. He glanced up from the couch, froze for a heartbeat too long, and then looked down at his drink like it had suddenly become the most fascinating object on earth. She was standing by the kitchen island, her hand still holding her wine glass, mid-gesture, like she'd just been cut off mid-sentence. Her smile, the one that had been so wide when I left 20 minutes ago, was gone. And she wasn't looking at me. She was staring through me, like I'd become an inconvenience. The music kept playing. Some synth-pop remix of an old Fleetwood Mac song, faint under the silence. I made some awkward joke. Something dumb like, "Wow, did someone die?" No one laughed. A few nervous smiles. Someone coughed. A door closed in the back of the loft. I crossed the room toward her. She finally turned to face me, and that's when I noticed it. The faintest flush in her cheeks, like she'd just come in from the cold. Her pupils were wide, and her voice, when she spoke, was slightly off. Shaky, but trying too hard to sound normal. "Everything okay with the call?" "Yeah," I said. "Just a quick work thing." "Good," she said. Too fast. I wasn't expecting a red carpet when I came back in, but I also wasn't expecting to feel like I had walked into the aftermath of an explosion, one that no one was willing to acknowledge had even happened. They went back to talking eventually. Sort of. But the vibe never recovered. Laughter felt thinner. Eye contact was shorter. And her hand, the one that always used to rest on my arm or back when we were in public, it stayed glued to her glass the rest of the night. I told myself it was nothing. I wanted it to be nothing. But when I couldn't sleep that night, I started replaying everything. The angle of her body when I walked in. The way one guy quietly left the party 20 minutes after me. The slightly too fast way she said good. And then I remembered something that made my stomach twist. There were 2 wine glasses on the counter next to her when I came in, and only one was hers. The next morning, she was humming while making coffee. Just humming. Like nothing happened. Like the air hadn't been thick with secrets the night before. Like she hadn't ignored me half the drive home and gone straight to the shower without saying a word. She made eggs. She asked me if I wanted almond milk in my coffee. I said no. She said okay, just like any other morning. The problem is, it wasn't. That image, the 2 wine glasses on the kitchen counter when I walked back in, it haunted me. One had a faint lipstick mark on the rim. The other didn't. I don't wear lipstick. I've never worn lipstick. But the color wasn't hers either. She only wears darker reds or neutrals, usually matte. This one was a glossy coral pink. Way too bright for her usual vibe. Unless she changed brands. Unless she borrowed it. Unless it wasn't hers. So while she was in the shower that morning, I went outside and checked the car. I don't even know what I was looking for. Maybe I was hoping to prove myself wrong. Maybe I wanted to find nothing. But the second I opened the passenger door, I saw it. A receipt. From a gas station about 12 miles away. Timestamped 5:47 p.m. The party started at 7. It wasn't from the gas station near our house. It wasn't on the way to the party, either. It was in the opposite direction. She told me she left straight from work to come home and get ready. But this receipt, it didn't make sense. Why was she at a gas station nowhere near her office or the party? I stood there for a long time, just staring at it. A small, crumpled piece of thermal paper that suddenly weighed more than I could hold. Later that day, I brought it up casually. "Did you stop anywhere before coming home last night?" I asked, pretending to scroll my phone. She didn't even pause. "Nope. Straight home." "Why?" I told her I was just wondering if she picked up snacks or something. She laughed. "Are you craving gas station snacks now?" I smiled. She smiled. We moved on. But we didn't. Not really. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling while she breathed softly beside me. I kept thinking about the guy who left the party right after I returned. About the way she flinched when I mentioned the wine glasses. about how her phone had stayed flipped screen down the entire night, even though she usually keeps it face up. I know how this sounds. I know how I sound. Like some insecure, jealous loser trying to find meaning in meaningless things. And maybe I am. Maybe I've always been like this. I overanalyze, I obsess, I spiral. I've driven myself crazy before. I've imagined things before. I've been wrong before. But this time, something's different. This time, I don't think I'm the only one lying. She was asleep beside me when it happened. The bedroom was quiet, except for the low hum of the heater and the occasional rustle of the sheets when she shifted. I wasn't sleeping. I hadn't really slept properly in days. I kept telling myself I was just tired, that I'd let a harmless moment spin out of control. But then her phone lit up. 2:13 a.m. No sound, just a soft glow on her nightstand. I turned my head slightly and saw the name. It wasn't a full name, just initials, MJ. No photo, just gray letters in a circle. And then it disappeared. She didn't wake up. She didn't even flinch. But I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, heart suddenly pounding like I'd been caught in something I wasn't supposed to see. She has no one in her family or close friends with those initials. I know all her people. I know too much, probably. But this name, this little gray M.J. bubble, it didn't belong. In the morning, I checked again. Nothing. The message wasn't there. No notification in the preview screen. No trace in her messages when I accidentally asked to use her phone to check traffic. Everything was clean. Too clean. I wanted to ask. I really did. But what was I going to say? Hey, who's MJ? I was watching your phone in the dark like a lunatic while you were asleep. Instead, I kept it to myself. But something new settled in my stomach after that night. Not just suspicion, but a quiet, burning certainty. I wasn't spiraling. I was finally starting to wake up. I didn't plan it. That's what I kept telling myself. It wasn't some premeditated act, and I wasn't snooping, not really. I was just curious. That's how it starts, right? One harmless decision, rationalized by silence and unease. And suddenly you're standing at the edge of a cliff, convincing yourself you're just going to peek over. It happened on a Sunday morning, a quiet one. Cassidy was in the kitchen boiling water for tea. I was on the couch, pretending to scroll through articles about football trades I didn't care about. Her laptop was open on the dining table. She'd left it there the night before. No password prompt. Just the soft glow of her desktop wallpaper, an old photo of us on some mountain years ago. We looked so happy in it, so young, so unaware. I told myself I just wanted to check her browser history. Just a glance. That's all. I tapped the trackpad, opened Chrome, and for a second, just one, I considered backing out. But I didn't. The history wasn't wiped. That was the first relief. No incognito tabs. No blank slates. But it was odd. It was too normal. News sites, recipes, a bunch of Pinterest boards for bathroom remodels. We don't even own the place. And one weirdly specific search. How to make a story sound believable when you lie. That one hit me in the chest. It was about 4 days old. I clicked it. She had opened 3 or 4 articles from writing forums. Advice on adding emotional details to make false stories feel true. It could have been for work. She used to write short stories as a hobby, but she hadn't touched fiction in months. And even then, she never asked about structure or realism. Her writing was always surreal, chaotic. She hated believability. I heard the kettle click in the kitchen and nearly jumped out of my skin. I slammed the laptop shut without even realizing it. My hands were clammy. My heart wouldn't stop hammering. She walked in, carrying 2 mugs. Smiled like she always did. No sign of suspicion. No twitch in her brow. She asked if I wanted honey or lemon. I said lemon. She gave me honey instead. Didn't even notice. The whole day, I kept hearing that search phrase over and over again in my head. How to make a story sound believable when you lie. What was she trying to explain? And to who? I started keeping notes. Not on my phone, too risky. I bought a cheap little notepad from a corner store, the kind you'd use for grocery lists or budgeting. I kept it hidden in the trunk of my car under the jack. Every time I noticed something that didn't line up, I wrote it down. Times, places, questions I didn't know how to ask. And slowly, the timeline I trusted, the map of my marriage, started to tear at the edges. It started with her business trip 2 months ago, a weekend in Portland. She said it was a small team-building retreat, nothing fancy, just 2 nights, hotel by the river, dinner with colleagues. At the time, I barely thought twice about it. She brought me back a pair of novelty socks and sent photos of vegan tacos from a place called Spore or Spice or something like that. I remember I even joked, "Did you go on a retreat or a hipster food tour?" And she just laughed and said, "Why not both?" But last week, when I was on her laptop again, this time while she was napping, a risk I swore I wouldn't take twice, I checked her photo folders. She's always been organized. Every trip, every birthday, every dumb little outing has its own neat folder with dates in the title. But there was nothing labeled for Portland. Nothing from that weekend. In fact, the last folder she created was from her cousin's wedding 6 months ago. It didn't make sense. She always documents everything. She once made a whole album for a farmer's market visit. So I dug deeper. I checked Google Maps on her phone while she was in the shower. I opened the app, went into the timeline history, held my breath, and scrolled to the weekend she was supposedly in Portland. She never left the city. She didn't even leave the county. Her GPS history showed 3 locations that weekend. Her workplace on Friday night, a boutique hotel downtown for 2 nights, and then a small bookstore on Sunday. That was it. No flight. No Portland. No colleagues. Just one location that stood out, the hotel. I Googled it. Not a chain. Definitely not a business retreat kind of place. Romantic. Expensive. Candles in the rooms, rain showers, mood lighting. The kind of place you book for someone you're trying to impress. I felt sick. She hadn't even bothered to turn off location history. That's how untouchable she felt. How sure she was that I'd never look, never doubt her, never ask. And maybe that's on me. Maybe I let my loyalty become blindness. Maybe I gave her so much trust that it became camouflage. I sat there on the edge of our bed that night, staring at the framed photo of us from 3 years ago in Yosemite, smiling like idiots, arms tangled, a mountain behind us that looked fake in its perfection. She was brushing her teeth in the bathroom, humming some soft tune I didn't recognize. And all I could think about was how good she'd become at humming when she's hiding something. I told myself I'd never do it. Never be that guy. The guy parked 2 blocks away, hiding behind a half-empty coffee cup and pretending he's just waiting on a friend. The guy checking the time every 3 minutes, heart pounding like he's committing a felony when really, he's just watching. But that's exactly who I became. She said she had a dentist appointment that morning. I didn't ask where. I just nodded and said, "Good luck." She left the house in gym clothes. No makeup, hair tied up like she always does when she doesn't want to be noticed. But I noticed. I noticed everything now. I waited 10 minutes, then followed. I didn't expect her to go to the dentist, not really. But I definitely didn't expect her to pull into a residential street 3 neighborhoods over, park her car, and walk straight into a gray house with a yellow door. No hesitation. No knock. Just walked in. I sat there in my car for 25 minutes. At first, I told myself maybe it was a friend's place. Maybe she was dropping something off. But she didn't come back out. And the longer I sat there, the more absurd it became to keep making excuses for a woman who didn't even think to lie convincingly anymore. Then something happened I didn't expect. The door opened. She stepped out with someone. A man. Tall. Older than me. Gray in the beard. He wasn't touching her. Not holding hands. Not kissing. Not even standing too close. But there was something in the way they moved. That casual familiarity. That silent rhythm 2 people only have when they've already crossed whatever line they swore they wouldn't. They both looked down the street. And for one terrifying second, she saw me. I know she saw me. But she didn't react. No flinch. No double take. Just turned to him, said something, smiled, and went back inside. Like I was just another stranger in another car on another quiet street. She didn't mention it. Not that day. Not the next. Not even a subtle comment about me being out and about, or asking if I had errands that morning. Nothing. Just silence, which somehow felt louder than if she'd screamed at me. I started to wonder, maybe she didn't recognize my car. Maybe she saw me but convinced herself she didn't. Or worse, maybe she knew exactly what I was doing there and simply didn't care. That night, she cooked my favorite dinner. Creamy garlic chicken, roasted sweet potatoes, that kale salad I always say I don't want but always eat. She lit candles. Played that lo-fi jazz playlist she knows I like. She even poured me a glass of the good wine, the bottle we'd been saving for something special. The same one she forgot we even owned 3 months ago. We sat across from each other like nothing was wrong. She asked how my day was. I lied. Said it was slow. She smiled and said, "You look tired." I nodded. I was beyond tired. I was depleted. Hollow. Eating out of politeness. Watching her fork movements more than the conversation. Every casual word from her mouth felt like a needle slowly pressing into skin. Deliberate, controlled, not deep enough to scream about, but constant. After dinner, she curled up on the couch next to me and put her head on my shoulder like she used to. I didn't move. I didn't put my arm around her. I didn't even breathe properly. I just sat there, stunned, as she scrolled through her phone, laughing at a reel, pausing to show me a dog wearing sunglasses. I nodded. I smiled. I don't even know why. She fell asleep on me, eventually. Warm, peaceful, like she was safe. Like I was still her home. But I didn't sleep that night. I just stared at the ceiling, again, thinking about the yellow door. The man. The silence. The way she played this entire evening like a well-rehearsed monologue. And I realized, this wasn't guilt. This was strategy. She wasn't sorry. She was managing the version of herself I still believed in. The thing about silence is that it teaches you to listen differently. Not to words, to spaces between them. The skipped eye contact. The overly tidy stories. The gaps where affection used to live. For weeks, we lived in a fragile script. She played the devoted wife. I played the fool who didn't know. But I did know. And she knew I knew. We were two actors stuck in a final scene, both pretending not to hear the director whispering, "Cut." Then one morning, I woke up before her. The light was barely coming through the blinds. She was turned away, curled up like she always used to when she felt safe. And I just watched her breathe. And for the first time, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel hurt. I felt distance. And in that distance, I felt something I hadn't touched in months. Clarity. I didn't need proof anymore. I didn't need to dig or confront or scream or fall apart. I didn't need to win. I just needed to choose myself again. So I got up, quietly, and made coffee. I sat at the kitchen table, opened my little notepad, the one I'd filled with doubts and fears and late-night scribbles, and I tore out every page, one by one. Not dramatically, not with hate. Just done. I didn't want to carry it anymore. When she woke up, I was already showered and dressed. I told her I was going to stay with my brother for a few days. She asked why. I said I needed space. She didn't argue. She nodded, and for a moment, I thought I saw something real in her eyes. Not panic, not guilt, just something close to relief. I didn't ask questions. I didn't need the final speech. A week passed, then another, and with each day, I remembered who I was before I started making excuses for someone else's secrets. I started sleeping again. I started laughing again. I started imagining a life where peace wasn't something I had to fight for every day. And one morning, I woke up and realized I felt light. Not because I had answers, but because I had myself back. I never confronted her about the man. I never asked about the messages or the hotel or the lipstick that wasn't hers. I didn't need to. That version of her, the one I built from trust and memory and denial, no longer lived in me. And the real one, whatever version she chose to be, could no longer hurt me. And that, surprisingly, felt like freedom. Not loud, not cinematic, not revenge-filled. Just quiet, steady freedom. And for the first time in a long time, I felt okay. Please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. I read them all.